What's up, everybody? Thank you, as always, for supporting and listening to the Porrada Podcast. This time around, I am in Hamel Jiu-Jitsu, kind of the clubhouse area out front, as you can tell. And my guest this time around, hailing currently out of Brainerd at Black Arrow Martial Arts, is Roque Abraham Reyes. Before we jump into it, shout out to Hamel for letting me record here. This is right after our open mat that we did for WeDefy. Make sure to check out WeDefy also. Before we jump into the episode, though, salt electrolytes. I'm gonna hold this up for the camera. Got a couple of them here. These guys were kind enough, as you've probably heard by now, to reach out, talk about being a little sponsor for the podcast, and I've really enjoyed the product. Do check it out. Use the code PORRADA for 15% off if you'd like. PORRADA. They also wholesale, so if you're a gym owner looking for something to have available for your members, it's a good option. Like I said, this episode's with Roque Reyes, and he's a bit of an import last couple years for Minnesota here. Now a black belt and highly competitive, involved with the community, doing a lot of refereeing and a lot of competitions at brown belt, we learned in particular. But he's got an interesting story and a lot of positive, uplifting things to say, a lot of good advice, a lot of life experience. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. My conversation with Roque Reyes. Hi, brother.
What's up? Are we rolling?
Yeah, we're going.
Oh, hey.
Yeah.
I want to lead this off by making sure everybody in the Minnesota, Midwest area gives this guy his props, because he does a lot for the community with the podcast, with the photos. I've never asked him to take photos of me, but I've seen them, in the feeds. He sent them to me, and I've seen random shots of other people. And there's not a lot of people that are going to go to all these tournaments and travel the way he does to showcase everybody in the art. And he doesn't just focus on one, two, or three different schools. He's everywhere, man. And that's what we need in this community, man. So I just want to make sure that everybody gives Mr. Browse here his props, and special props to his lady that gives him the I don't want to say authority. That's not the word, but she supports him in what he does, because he's everywhere, man. He teaches, he trains, he's at all the tournaments. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of travel, man. So thank you to you and the missus for what you're doing out here.
I appreciate that. She will too, because you're right. Freedom is probably the word, or flexibility is the word you're looking for sure. No, I dig that. I appreciate you saying it.
Yeah, I've been married for let's see what my tattoo says. So I got 20 years coming in October, and I've been in jiu-jitsu / MMA for 18 going on 19 years, and she's been there every step of the way. So it's important to have a support system like that, man, especially even in whatever endeavor you do. It's you want to have that foundation with your spouse or significant other if you're in a long-term committed relationship and stuff like that, man, because you got to support each other to win. She's been very supportive, continues to be very supportive. And, it's just, I know there's some other competitors out there and guys and gals in jiu-jitsu that got spouses and stuff too. So, everyone out there who's got a support system like that, make sure you just thank your spouse or significant other for, them allowing, the flexibility and supporting you and your goals, man, because I compete a lot. I see a lot of you guys out there, coaches and stuff. It takes a lot, man. So let's just make sure we're giving the right people the props they deserve, and also to our coaches and whatnot, man, because if they're not paying the bills, we can't learn.
I dig it the most. Let's backtrack half a second. Why don't you go ahead and tell me your name? Introduce yourself.
If you don't know, now you know. What's up, everybody out there? My name is Roque Abraham Reyes. My moniker that I haven't used in a while is the Jiu-Jitsu fighter, formerly known as a Mudville Slugger, Roque Abraham Reyes. I am originally from Stockton, California, in the Big 209, as you can see right here in the shirt, representing a little bit. Out of Black Arrow Martial Arts now in Brainerd, Guerrilla Jiu-Jitsu, Professor Jared, Professor Cobb, Professor Aiden, and just, making my life out there in the Brainerd Lakes area, man, coming from, the mean streets of Stockton.
Pretty culturally different, I would assume.
Yes, very all caps assume. No, don't even gotta assume. Yeah, it's been a big culture shock. Well, not culture shock. I mean, because I was used to kind of what was out there. Having been up there to the area on family trips for about 5 years prior to the COVID stuff, and visited a couple of the gyms out there. Because I've been doing this for almost, like I said, 19, 20 years. So I was a purple belt when we were going out there. So I kind of, seen what was going on, and then I knew it was going to be cold. I'd never been up there in the winter. But I knew it was the snow and it was cold. But, when you know those kinds of things going into something, they don't, it seems to matter more to people who are from there than it does me. Maybe because they just lived there the whole life and it gets kind of,
they've endured the suffering.
Yeah. And maybe it's getting old for them, but it's a different lifestyle. It's different for sure. Culturally different. By a large scale, but for us it was the right move. I have jiu-jitsu. I joke I got jiu-jitsu, Walmart, and Buffalo Wild Wings, and so I'm good.
Keep it simple.
Yeah.
So you're from California originally then?
Yeah, born and raised in Stockton, California. Yep.
Yeah. Started jiu-jitsu out there, obviously. Where'd you start at?
So I started originally at an MMA school, Stockton Fight Club, back when I was in high school. I mean, probably like most people my age, even some people who are a little bit younger, you see the UFC and like you kind of have these, fantasies, dreams, whatever, that's what you want to do. And I saw that, and Ken Shamrock was the shit at the time, and I was like, man, I want to be like that guy.
Yes.
He's buff and he can just rip you apart. You know what I'm saying? But it wasn't until 12 years later that I actually got off the couch and I was really inspired by what was it? Josh Haynes. I think it was season 3 of The Ultimate Fighter. He was married, he had kids. A couple of them had special needs, and I was like, man, if this dude can get to this level, I can at least try it.
Yeah.
And so I met Randy Couture one time, and Stockton Fight Club was out there promoting it at Max Muscle, I think it was, back then back home. Anyway, I got turned on Stockton Fight Club, and I talked to my wife. My son was just born at the time. I was like, I just want to give it a shot. And I remember the conversation. She was a little nervous about it, but
she was right. It's a good thing to be nervous about.
Yeah,
right?
for sure. But I knew, I always knew that I was never going to put them second. And I kind of knew I had a ceiling, and it was okay for me to be realistic with myself. Anyway, I got started at Stockton Fight Club when I was 28. And then just kind of gradually got into MMA, moved to a couple other gyms, Stockton KO. Sencal MMA is when I started fighting, on a legit level when Camel kind of came into play at the California Mixed Martial Arts Association, Amateur Mixed Martial Arts Association, and then moved into Cortez Martial Arts, a Charles Gracie affiliate, and then that's when I put the gi on, and then from there I went to 10th Planet inside of BJJ in Stockton, and then made my way to Guerrilla Jiu-Jitsu, Black Arrow Martial Arts in Brainerd, Minnesota.
When did you switch? Because you started obviously in MMA focus. When did you decide, I'm just going to be a jiu-jitsu guy?
I think I was 38 because I got to fight in Bellator.
Nice.
Yeah. So it was cool. I got to have that experience, and seeing, I was cutting weight with Pitbull, Patricia Pitbull, cutting weight with him, and then some of my other friends in the community. But after I lost that fight, I was like, I think I'm going to be done and just focus on jiu-jitsu. I had been competing in jiu-jitsu a lot already up to that point. Combination between MMA and jiu-jitsu, and then coaching my son's soccer team and going to dance stuff. I was still a family man at, was the first. I was that came before everything, but I was still able to live my dream the way that I wanted to, and not by anyone's standard. And again, knowing that, I have my family, and I couldn't risk them going hungry to try to make it in the sport of MMA at my age. And just, there's no money in it at first. You got to get, even in jiu-jitsu now, that's starting to grow and there's starting to be some money there. But, to give up, to go through the suffering you have to go through, I was not in a position to do that because I had mouths to feed. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But
if you were 22 years old taking that loss, it had just been another step and you would have kept going.
Yeah, but 28, married with 2 kids.
Yeah, way different. Good for you.
I got a mortgage. I had a mortgage to pay, you know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, so it was, I think I was 38. It was Bellator 172, I think. So
look it up.
Yeah. It was well, here's the bad thing about it. So I opened up the card, and they were having technical, because they were supposed to have the like the, I guess what would be the prelims or whatever, early prelims online, and they were having technical difficulties, and so I don't even think that fight exists online anywhere. You can see like some pre-fight hype. I did a couple of videos and stuff like that with some of the people out there. You'll see pictures and face-offs and stuff like that, but it's the actual fight. I mean, there's other videos out there if you want to see me get beat up and lose. Like, there's plenty of those out there. I am undefeated though in winning. Yeah. But no, it was a great, and that's how I got to know a lot of people. And I have a pretty large network in Northern California. But it's just all through competition. And when I got out here, and once I started training, competing, I was like, this is how I'm going to grow my network. And that's kind of what's gotten me here. I got a seat at the table. I was joking earlier. Like, I finally got a seat at the table. I think it's dope. You know what I'm saying? And just very appreciative. And I put a lot of work in, being my age and competing against all these young dudes just to make some friends outside of, the team that I have back there, you know what I'm saying, in Brainerd.
It's like getting jumped in.
In a way, it's kind of, it's almost like
we fought each other at Grappling Industries or something. Now we're friends. Yeah.
Yep. No, and I'm totally familiar with the gang mentality.
I'm not. I was just guessing. I have no
prison rules, wrist locks. Let's go.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. How many MMA fights did you do?
So I did a total of 4 pro MMA fights, and then I had about 15 amateur fights. Some were sanctioned, some weren't, and then I don't know, it was like a handful of I only got 1 street fight, but I had a handful of smoker fights, before, because California, I think, was the first state to legalize amateur MMA. So, prior to that, it was all smokers, kind of in garages and stuff like that. So I had a handful of those, and then I had 13 to 15 amateur fights. Won an amateur MMA title, fought for, I think, 3 or 4 of them. And then it's like, I'm just going to go pro now and, just do it. And I did it, and been there. I can say I've been there and done that. Not on the highest level, but just enough to know that if all you youngsters out there want to do it, you got to put the work in, man. You got to have your shit together, because life can be hard if you don't have your shit together. If you got a baby mama, even in something like jiu-jitsu. I mean, something as simple as jiu-jitsu, just getting here 3 days a week can that can be the win in and of itself. But if you got drama in your life, dude, it's going to be very, very hard. So all you guys out there, adults too, get your shit together. Be better, because it's worth it and it's great.
It's good advice for sure. Was the getting in the gi for the first time correlate to when you were kind of shifting just to doing the jiu-jitsu?
No, I was still. I had a few more fights after putting on the gi. It's just the way the team I was at, the gym closed down, and I had made some connections at another gym just through networking and fighting and competing and stuff like that. So I talked to them over there. They're like, yeah, cool, come on. And then my son's been training with me since he was 7 or 8. So everywhere I went, he went. So if you ever look me up, you'll see pictures of my kids online with me at the fights. My wife, she's gone to a lot of the fights. My mom's never gone. She just don't like seeing her baby get hit, and that's cool. That's understandable. But man, she rocks the hell out of my shirts. I tried to go full bore, man. I had the banners, I had sponsors on my shorts, I had everything, man. I did it the best way that I could, and just watching how other people rolled, I was kind of like the spokesman for some of the guys on the team, kind of just talking to the promoters, getting them their tickets out of that. I kind of vibe in that kind of chaotic, a lot of different things, going on. But yeah, man, it's been a great ride thus far.
It's cool. Give me your your belt rank history.
So my belt rank, I am a black belt under Professor Jared, Black Arrow Martial Arts. I got promoted September 21st, 2024. So I am still fresh meat as far as black belt goes. And
Is it a slower process in the beginning because you were focused on fighting? That seems to be how it goes.
Well, I never thought that I would be a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I was just gonna, I just wanted to fight.
It was a tool for the fight. Jiu-jitsu was. It wasn't.
Yeah, I felt myself kind of be very comfortable with the ground aspect of MMA, and so as I was getting deeper and more involved, jiu-jitsu, and I was competing in jiu-jitsu, so I was like, that's just the next progression is to go there, but it wasn't because of leaving MMA to focus on. I was already in the gi. I think I was a purple belt when I stopped fighting.
Okay.
I probably would have, if I would have started in the gi when I first started, I would have gotten my black belt. But again, that was never like that. That wasn't even a thought in my mind.
It's a whole different mindset.
Right. Until I, I guess you could say fell in love with jiu-jitsu. But yeah, I came to Black Arrow as a 2-stripe brown belt under Tim Freeman when I was at inside BJJ Academy 10th Planet in Stockton. I got there as a 4-stripe purple belt or 3-stripe purple belt. So my jiu-jitsu rank from white to purple was under Jason Cortez at Cortez Martial Arts. They are now in Lathrop under Full Circle Martial Arts. But it's been awesome to watch them grow, because they have some 10th Planet guys there now as well. And I kind of vibe with the 10th Planet just because that's kind of part of my lineage a little bit, That's how I kind of met up with the submission challenge people, reffing for them and stuff. It's like that was kind of my in. I was like, hey, I used to be with these guys over here, and then you just start making friends and stuff. Yeah. But yeah, so through as far as jiu-jitsu goes, it's Jason Cortez, who was belted under Charles Gracie, and then Tim Freeman, who was belted under Sergio Silva, who I believe was under. He has a Half Gracie background. I forgot who he got belted by. And then, black belt, Professor Jared, who was belted by the infamous Dave Camarillo at a Guerrilla Jiu-Jitsu. And I got a lot of friends over there, which was a kind of good connection over here because there's a little bit of back home here, with the Guerrilla Jiu-Jitsu stuff.
Oh yeah, he is a West Coast thing, isn't he?
Yeah, San Jose, California. Yeah. But I kind of want to just touch on some real quick that I didn't say earlier, why I started, I always wanted to, but what really got me off the couch more than the Josh Haynes thing was, I could use this as a testament for my kids whenever they're going to come, because we all come across some type of crossroads, and I was like, I can use this as a talking point when my kids come to me, because at some point it's going to happen. My son's 21 now, my daughter is 18, and we've had some conversations, but I know that they're going to come, and then I could be like, hey, well, kind of thinking about things like that, because I really embrace fatherhood and being a husband and stuff, and it's like, I don't want to be 50 wishing I did, I want to be able to say that I did it, and the results are what they are, but I gave it my best, and I want to be able to give that type of encouragement to my kids when they come to me with whatever they're going to go through.
Yeah. Of all the things to look back with regret, don't have it be being a dad.
Dude, the pain of regret is much more than the pain of success, so yeah, man.
You said your kids train with you, at least your son?
My son, yeah. He
still trains? Where's he at?
Yeah, so right now he's in Las Vegas. He's with the Academy of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I can't. Moises. Dang, I forget his last name, man. Super nice guy. He used to be, I think he used to be under Drysdale, but the Honey Badgers, what he goes by on.
I'll check him out.
Yeah, no, super legit. And I even called him, my son told me about, I was like, hey, Dad, he's in the Air Force, my son is. He's like, I found a place on base, da-da-da-da. So I did the fatherly thing, and I did the higher, the upper level rank thing. It was like, I'm gonna check them, I'm gonna call and see what this guy's all about. Not so much to be having an aggressive conversation to try to punk him or not like that, but just to have a conversation because my son's going to be there, and I don't care how old my kid's going to be, he's always going to be my son.
Yep.
And but no, when I did Worlds last year, and so I went and trained over there, met him, super cool guy, everyone there is cool. I went back to visit this past December and went to the open mats and classes over there while I was there. Super cool guy, yeah, and he's top notch, man. He's a legit dude. So my son's in a good place. Training out there. He spent about 6 months in Okinawa before he could actually settle into to train again. But he did a tournament in February. I think it was that same weekend that the Grappling Industries was in February. He was competing that same weekend in Las Vegas for Grappling X, and he had some success, man. I was proud of him. It's we've always competed together, long days. But it was just an awesome thing for us to have together, to be able to compete and train together and just kind of really have that father-son thing, and
you were saying you both did your first ones together when we were just sitting down here. You were talking about.
Oh, so that conversation. So it was when we were with 10th Planet. So Submission Pro Tour back out of Sacramento. They have a setup similar to the Hubcap production stuff that they do with Uncommon Classic, or this coming up Superfly, similar to Fight to Win, just 1v1 matches. And so, and I had done Fight to Win several times, and I'd been trying to get my son and I on a Fight to Win card together. So I thought that'd just be the dopest shit in the world.
Yeah, you're right.
Is to compete, especially because Fight to Win, is the biggest party in grappling, right? And so I just thought it'd just be super cool on that platform, right? A platform like that would be super dope, because I have the access to that. Once I got my purple belt. And so, so Submission Pro Tour was around, and I had competed for them for a few times. And then we just got it to where, my son and I were on that card, and we were the first father-son to compete for that promotion in its history. And I don't think anybody's done it since or ever, after us. And so that was a very, very cool moment.
It is cool.
And what prompted the conversation, because they have the Man in the Arena quote out here. And I ended up doing is I have this poster made, and it's a shot of my son going for the Kimura from bottom. I think it's like bottom, like half guard or something like that. But he's going for it, so you get like the face shot with him coming there, and then my match, I went for the knee bar on the guy, and it slipped out, so then I went to the foot lock, and so then you have like that same angle of me doing the foot. So where I'm doing the same thing as he come over with the foot, he's doing the same thing with the arm. And so I put those two pictures next to each other, and then I put the Man in the Arena quote up top, and I made a poster out of it, and I have it hanging up in my home gym. I sent him one, and I really I like that quote, because like everybody's gonna talk shit. Everybody talks crap, no matter what, whether it's constructive or they just want to talk smack. And especially in, even in jiu-jitsu, like, you got a lot of dorks out there that are just talking a bunch of shit. MMA is even worse, with the keyboard warriors and this and that. But everyone's going to have their opinion, dude. And it was just like, but if you're not in there, like, and that's why it's, kind of been fairly easy for me to not really care what anyone says, because I did everything. I said my way, my terms, how I want to do it. And everyone's journey is different. You know what I mean? And, but yeah, just, for people who don't compete, to be that kind of person that talks about somebody and you've never done it.
Yep.
Like, the cold, timid souls who don't know victory nor defeat. Yeah. Fuck you, man. 'Cause I would not want to be there,
Doesn't feel good to think about being in that spot, does it?
No. Yeah.
That's not good for the soul. You think? I bet we could talk to James at Hubcap Productions and get the father-son thing again.
Maybe
I bet we
can.
could set that up at one of his events.
I'm sure we probably
could. Not to put
could.
pressure on him or nothing, but I bet we could do that.
Yeah, no, that'd be dope if my son and I could do that. If the stars would have to align, because he's in Las Vegas and I'm out here. But
stars align on occasion.
Oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, that'd be super dope to do that. This far removed from the first one. But yeah, he's been my guy. Since he was a kid, growing up, and I taught a few classes at one of the gyms I was at, and he was in the classes, and then then he became a training partner. I think he was like, I don't know, he was like 11 or 12, and that full hip tossed me what we're doing, because the way the promotions worked at Cortez Martial Arts is like, you kind of had some criteria you had to meet, and they're like pre-tests, if you will.
Sure.
And and hip toss was one of them, and like I was his uki for his pre-test, and I was like, that fool's nuts dropped, because he just hip tossed me like I was nothing. Granted, I mean, there wasn't no resistance, but still, he was
clean. Yeah,
it was clean, and he, I was a lot heavier than him, and this and that, and so I was like, all right, man. So then he became my training partner, and then I was still in like kind of like coach mode, and so like I would kind of critique him during our roles. Well, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? He's like, Dad. One time he's like, Dad, just let me do my thing. I was like, you're right. I'm gonna shut up now. And then it became more of a conversation from a, I guess, a fatherly standpoint versus a coaching standpoint.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like, but it was cool to have him. He was like, I picked up on like the leg locks and foot locks and stuff. I would attribute it to him with my level of, I guess, reaction time to it, because he's 18, 17 years old, just spitfire. He's a machine gun, and I'm like, in my 40s, like, I'm kind of like a bazooka, if anything. Slow.
Yeah.
But just having him there, man, outside of jiu-jitsu, it was very awesome, and I'm very happy with where he's at in life and what he's doing. And just the support that my wife and I have been able to show him is how we live our lives together as one. You know,
well, and that's cool because you'll get to be able to share that piece of your lives forever.
Oh yeah,
you'll be able to roll in 30 years.
Yeah, yep. We will. I you know, my daughter, she's into dance. She just she don't like people touching her.
No, she's not wrong.
Yeah, so you know, but like
dance is badass anyway. You know, dude, that's impressive stuff.
You know, as I got more into MMA and jiu-jitsu, I really started having just an appreciation for everybody and whatever they're doing.
Yeah, man.
And it doesn't even got to be something physical. You know, if there's someone who's running a business, or like what you're doing, just with the photography and the podcast and stuff, or whoever's out there trying to do something great for themselves, like, you know, there's, you know, I respect everybody's journey because there's a certain level of like grit and failure that you have to go through. And, you know,
I'm getting good at that part myself, the failure. Doing it a lot.
But if you don't fail, if you don't fail, you don't learn, man. You know, and it's you know, but you know, it's a light at the end of the tunnel, but it doesn't take the sting away at the time.
Yeah.
You know, because you just, you know, yeah, I know it'll get better, but it fucking hurts right now. So leave me alone.
That's the win, is getting over that.
Right.
And moving again.
Yeah. So like, but you know, every now and then before I left, I started like doing some kickboxing stuff with my daughter. Just, you know, I wanted her to have some level of like self-defense, you know, and so, you know, throwing the hands and some kicks and stuff. We still have yet to pick that back up since everybody's gotten out here. But no, dance is super tough, man. You know, a lot on the memories. I'm just like, you know, there's a lot in jiu-jitsu that we're, you know, that because we're into it, that's how we can memorize all the stuff. But like with all the different 8, 9, 7, 6, 5 different dance numbers that she has to remember on different songs. And we just did a father-daughter dance last weekend, and like that was just like, I don't know, 3 minutes. And that would be nothing in jiu-jitsu, like, whatever, I got this. But, you know, just learning these dance moves, and, you know, and you would think that, oh, well, you know, you know how to do jiu-jitsu, so your mind can be, you know, you should be able to do it. But it was a lot harder than jiu-jitsu, for sure.
The thing about dance is it's intellectually taxing to the point you're making. There's a lot going on. Physically taxing, but it's also got to look good.
Yeah.
We can be ugly as fuck in there while we're rolling. It is ugly. It's going to be a mess. You don't need to look pretty. Making movement look pretty, and to look pretty yourself while you're making movement look pretty is tough. Shout out to dance.
You got to have the facial expressions, the smile, and the posture and the poise. And you know, sometimes like, you know, you got to have posture or poise for certain moves to hit right. But if your back is kind of hurting, like you can't. Like you just can't, and so, but they got to fight through that and still have that posture when they got that knot in their back that just wants to pop
and look good. Yeah. Was the matches at the Grappling Industries in February your first black belt matches?
Yeah. Before we move on, I just wanted to give a shout out to my daughter and what she's putting through for dance. Because that, and to your point, what you said earlier, it takes a lot, man. So like, you know, my kids are having, you know, they're in their respective arts, I guess you can call it. You know, my son played soccer and did jiu-jitsu, and my daughter was just primarily dance. And like we made it all work, my wife and I and them. And yeah, man, she's, you know, she's still a tough person too, which is good. You know, I'm glad that I have tough kids because the world's a tough place to live in, man.
That's the value of sports. And tough physical stuff like dance. Like that's the real value of it. Having some grit to you. For
sure. So so Grappling Industries in February were my first matches as a black belt.
3 matches with Wheezy, was it? With Kerry Bingham?
I had 4.
4?
Yeah, so I had 2. I had the 2 in the gi and the 2 in the no gi.
All with Kerry?
All with Kerry.
I remember taking some pictures and just being like, well, I already got these guys. What the hell happened?
Well, so, and he stepped up, you know, he's a little monster, so he stepped up to the 170 because there was nobody, I think, at 45, and then I did the absolute, which I totally fumbled. But you know, he's a super nice guy, but golly, that dude is just on another level.
Yeah. He's fun to watch. The way I phrase that, he's fun to watch.
It's fun to watch, just not when he's going against me if he's winning.
But, is that kind of how you expected that to have gone, though? Like showing up first time with the new strap on? Strap on? Let's cut that out.
I really don't roll that way, but first thing I think of today, I will. No, I didn't expect it to go the way it did because I had gone against him before at brown belt.
Oh, okay. So you had bumped into him.
Yeah. So, we kind of, that's how I know him is, again, because I, competed that first year. I think that first year I competed 11 times that year. But yeah.
First year out here?
First year out here.
Okay.
11 times.
I must have seen you more than I realized. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I did a lot of submission challenge. Well,
yeah.
Dude, I went to Nebraska, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wisconsin, all the ones that were all the grappling industries, anything that was within like 8 to 9 hours driving distance, I went, and submission challenge or grappling industries. And if you guys are going to compete for a long time, get the lifetime passes. You're going to save a lot more money. You're going to make your money back. Grappling industries has them, submission challenge has them. They're going to be worth it.
That's good info. I didn't even know they had that. So you can do like a big money up front and you just get entry into whatever.
Yeah, and if you do it Black Friday, bro, Black Friday. One of my teammates hit me to that. Justin, he had bought when I was like, what? Then I started seeing the ads come through in my email, and I was like, oh, what the heck? So. Or I would, hey, do you guys got this? Oh yeah, we do. Blah blah blah. So yeah, that's my black belt tip for all you people out there that compete. Go get a lifetime pass.
That's good
because
info.
grappling industries always comes. Submission challenge always comes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like you're always going to be able to compete. You know what I mean? Even if you're my age, you'll compete against younger guys, but you'll still be able to compete. But if you're in your 30s and you plan on competing, a long time or for the next 10 years, you're going to make your money back.
Yeah.
Probably, you know what I mean? You're going to be in the, I guess, negative, but in the positive.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're paying $1,200 now, but it's saving you $200
and
each time or whatever.
It's not even that. Dude.
Sure,
you can get it for $7 or $9.
Oh, nice.
And if you're paying $100 a pop.
Yeah, and if you're just going to do it every time they come around twice a year, you might as well make your money back after a couple, 3 years.
After 7 tournaments? 3 of them, they come back up 3 times a year.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Like
So in 3 years, you're like, you don't got to pay no more.
That's a lot of competing, bro.
Yeah. It
How many did you say? 11?
11 times, yeah.
Especially with the travel, man. You're a younger man than your age says. It's good energy, good for you.
No, yeah, because I got here in 2021, in the fall of 2021, and I didn't want to jump right into training because like this, the job I have is a total new industry. I'm not unfamiliar with. I lost the word I was going to use. Anyway, so I do inventory, purchasing, accounting kind of stuff. I have a background in accounting. What is it called when you're buying and shipping and stuff? Not importing and exporting.
Supply chain.
Supply chain.
Hey,
yes.
Everybody knows that word after 2020 when it went haywire.
Right. Yeah. Phew, man. But anyway, so like I have a background in supply chain through my degree in accounting. So, but this was a new industry.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying with book manufacturing. If you're into books, there's a lot that goes into it. Let me tell you.
I'm sure.
Man, so much that goes into just the paper alone. There's too many options. People out there in paper, stop making all these different kinds of paper and to make 4 of them and make my job easier. But yeah, so I had a lot to learn with that position, and like it was go big or go broke. You know what I'm saying? Like, because moving from California, from my hometown, right, the house I grew up in, and leaving all that behind, like we're rolling the dice big time on us, and I wanted to make sure that I was going to have success and be able to manage this position that I have. So I was putting in 16-hour days. I would take the work home with me and work. And it was just me. Yeah. It was just me because my wife and kids didn't come until the following summer. So I spent almost 9 months out here without them. But I wanted to get my job stuff situated before I started training. So, 2021, the 6 months after I got here, I pretty much had it nailed. Pretty much had it down to where I could fit training back in, and so then I think it was 2022. I started up at Black Arrow, and then in 2023 is when I wanted to start competing. And initially, I was trying to get at the time. I think there was a competitor of the year because some schools have like end of the year awards or whatever, and there was this one for competitor of the year, and I was like, I want that. And then I was just like, rocket ship. Finding all the tournaments and then boom and just going signing up. Supported my wife though, man. Like she could have easily made it. She could have been like, "No, I don't think it's a good idea," or just made it really hard. Very very supportive woman. So yeah, dude, I was going to North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Wisconsin or Arkansas, I think, Wisconsin, Illinois. Again, anywhere that's 8 to 10, or up to 10 hours. Because if it's 10 hours away, it's 12 to 13 hours driving.
Yeah.
And so, and then I got these rewards points. I played the credit card game, so I was getting free rooms. So,
nice.
And my job is super flexible with it. You know what I mean? And I got,
that's huge.
Man, dude, I got remote access. So like when my son got his purple belt, because our coach from 10th Planet, he ended up moving to Nashville, opened up 10th Planet Nashville. And at the time, my son was driving his then girlfriend to Kentucky because her mom moved the year before from Stockton. And once she graduated, she was going to move over there. So he drove her down there. So, you know, our 10th Planet coach, I'll call him Coach Tim Freeman, he was like, hey, I'm going to promote Jesse. Like, you know, can you be here? And I'm like, fuck yeah. So then I called my boss and I was like, hey, I got to go to Tennessee, dude. Like, I'll take the computer with me. Oh, yeah, it's cool. Go. So that kind of flexibility goes a long way. Like, you know, every job you got to deal with crap, right? It doesn't matter how like lucrative or luxurious it is. Like there's always some kind of shit you got to deal with. And like the shit I got to deal with to have what I have, it's okay.
Yeah.
You know,
as far as it goes, it's a good list. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so having that kind of flexibility with the job to, you know, have the day, you know, take Friday off, travel day, check into a hotel that I didn't have to pay for, and then, you know, just watch my diet, go compete, make new friends, and win or lose, and, you know, come back home and do it again.
Have a good time regardless, right?
Yeah. So that once a month, twice a month, I was competing, and then I kind of wanted to slow. So my first year, and I started setting goals. So like my first year goals of competing was like I wanted to compete 10 times, but I did 11. And then the funny story is that they stopped doing awards, so I never got the award.
Oh, dumb.
but at the same time, it was cool. Yeah, but I kind of at the same time I'm kind of being an example and showing people if you want to compete, you can do it. This is, you know. This is how it can be done. Like everyone has their own path. You know, we had, you know, quite a few people compete yesterday from Black Arrow, and, you know, the competition, the guys and gals who compete, you know, it's kind of increased over the last couple of years, which is cool. I mean, it's always great to have some teammates there to compete with, but I've been doing this so long, and I've kind of always been like kind of carving my own path. So if nobody's there, it's cool. Like, you know, that's just, it is what it is. Because at the end of the day, they can yell at me all they want to do something, and I still have to do it. I still have to be able to have the capacity. So whether someone's there or not, you know, it's no bother to me. But I do understand the value of having someone there. So like, you know, I went one of these tournaments this last year just to coach, you know, and not compete, and that was cool, you know, because I got my black belt, and so like, you know, jiu-jitsu is not always about the submissions or the moves. It's also kind of about your character and then your ability to coach, I think, as well. You know, we don't know everything. We're still human. Like, I forgot my rash guard today, so that kind of bugged me. But, you know. I
don't even own a rash guard. Just wear a shirt. Whatever.
Yeah, but so anyway, so back to, you know, I made these goals, those, you know, to compete 10 times in that first year, and I did 11.
And that's the reward more than the award at the ceremony.
Yeah, you know,
let's be honest.
You know, right. And then I got to, that's how I started building my network. You know, I competed against Morgan Fraser, and then we have a connection with M Theory. He's from M Theory. And then, you know, so I went to one of their open mat deals or open trainings, and then he was like, oh, you might like Akagi. So then I hit up Akagi, and like, you know, Topher's super cool guy. And then I was going to Akagi all last year, every Sunday, pretty much. But so yeah, I did 11 tournaments, or competed 11 tournaments, who knows how many matches, just because some brackets are a little bit 3 or 4, but they're a lot of younger guys. So it was a little, I guess, disheartening in a way, but at the same time, it's like, you know, I'm courageous as fuck still doing it at my age.
Jump in. You got 15 years on them. They kick your ass. Huh? I got 15 years on them. Yeah. You know? It's still a good time, whatever.
And then, so then the fall, so I think, so we're at 2023. So 2024 is like, what are my goals going to be for this year? And it was like, well, compete at Worlds. So I've never done Worlds, and, you know, I'm not a really big IBJJ. I'm not anti IBJJF as some others are out there, but I don't really like their rule sets. Yeah. But, you know, I understand, you know, I see both sides of the coin. so to speak.
It seems like there's so many strong big time IBJJF people, and there's so many strong haters, but then there's so many people in the gray area in the middle. Like it's a full spectrum, because sometimes it is just like, why can't I wear gray rash guards? You know, there's just weird picky bullshit. But then you know, if you got a foot fetish at the at the right belt, you probably don't like them. You know.
Yeah, but I understand the traditional aspect of it and what it means to jiu-jitsu, and I was like, well, let me go do this, because this is essentially the biggest tournament that I've ever done. I've competed locally a bunch of times, and it's not like I'm not a star in this thing, but just being there and the level that's going to be there, it's like, you know, so I'm going to do that. And I did it, you know, and then, you know, again, support of my wife and, you know, my teammates back home, and, you know, no one telling me no. And then just giving it my best. And then, then this year I was like, well, what are my goals going to be this year? And so it was to start going to other gyms, other open mats, you know, to increase my network and, you know, get, you know, find new people in the community.
Catch a new ass beating.
Yep, catch a new ass beating, or give something to somebody. You know, I was just working with somebody today on a lockdown. They were kind of struggling with me on. I was like, hey, you know, can I show you something? They're like, yeah, and it was kind of like new for them. So, you know, being able to, you know, kind of give back that way too, you know. So it was go to, you know, new gyms to expand my network and meet new people in the community. Compete for Orbit Submission Series, compete for Subspectrum, and Uncommon Classic. Mm-hmm. Those were my 4 goals. And I was going to do 165, but I'm like, upon further review, no. And you know, and I had a good talk with TJ. I forget, I don't know, Kreitzer. Yeah, Kreitzer. So, and he, you know, we kind of talked about that.
It's a fighter pilot.
And so and I had met him at Akagi, and we rolled a few times, and you know, Topher's like, hey, you should go roll with him, as he competes a lot. He's a good competitor.
Squirrely.
Yeah, so we had good matches. Then we just vibed. He was in the Air Force, my son's in the Air Force, so kind of we had that connection there. And then we're older guys at the same time competing. But yeah, I've been able to hit all those goals outside of the 165 thing. It's at my age and where I'm at now, like, I'll run into problems like Kerry, have to move up. I might as well just stay at 170. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Or 175 for these super shows.
And then you can have an extra sushi roll here and there and not worry about it.
Yeah, man. Or a donut like today. Yeah. But no, so I did. It's ironic how I met up with the guys from OS, because I was, like I said, I started ref for Submission Challenge, and that was through my 10th Planet background and breaking ice with them. And then something new for me just to ref. You know, I'm not ready for the points for the grappling industry style stuff. That's a lot, but just watching for Aoki locks on the kids and heel hooks and stuff, and you know, I can deal with that.
Kids know Aoki locks. Golly,
it's close
the
to a heel hook.
Kids are crazy, man. The kids are crazy.
Yeah, but so we're breaking down. So, you know, I'm talking to these new guys, and I'm like, they're like, yeah, so my goals, and they're like, oh, well, you know, we own us. I was like, oh, what's up? Let's make it happen. And so, like, because, you know, they were helping out with the reffing and stuff at Submission Challenge, and so we kept in contact. And yeah, I competed for them against, you know, one of the known people out there in Iowa from Iowa Martial Arts and Fitness, I think they're called. There's the dad, and like he's got like 3 or 4 sons that are just all like smokers in jiu-jitsu.
Wild, those kids.
Yeah.
I can't think of the name of the gym or the names of the people, but people know who we're talking about.
Yeah.
Those kids are wild, man.
Yeah. So good school. So like, you know, so like I'm going against, you know, quality people, you know, win, lose or draw, like I'm there, you know, so I was able, you know, get that coordinated, and then I signed up for Subspectrum, and
Subspectrum's the show. That's one of the best in the region.
Yeah, so that's why, you know, because I had seen everything, you know, in that first year, all these, you know, different, and then just kind of seeing, you know, because you make friends through this, you know, our jumping in process in jiu-jitsu, and you know, so then, you know, you be friends on social media, and then they're posting shit. You just start seeing stuff come through the grapevine, and I'm like, this show looks like it's the shit. I want to compete for that fucking thing, and so I registered, and I even met, you know, the governor at Austin. He competed over there, and so yeah, I got that going on, and then, you know, it's not Uncommon Classic, but it's the same people, Hubcat Productions. So now I'm gonna be on Superfly.
It's a cooler name.
Hell yeah, man.
That seems more your style, the Superfly versus the Uncommon Classic.
I don't know.
The name alone matches your energy.
I think I can fit in both.
Yeah, for sure.
Uncommon and Classic. like Chavo Classic, like was it? If you're a wrestling fan, you can tell by my Macho Man glasses I had on.
Yeah, they do say Macho Man.
Yeah, they are. I was Macho Man for Halloween, but then I was like, then it kind of has.
You just stuck with it.
Well, yeah, because but it reminded I grew up watching wrestling, and I'll try to get back to what I was saying before this tangent, But then, I don't know if for those of you who listened to a lot of rap back then, Public Enemy, Terminator X, these are kind of Terminator X style too. Yeah. I just don't have a high top fade, but that's okay. I don't, it's just,
you have the modern high top fade.
There we go. Yeah. So
there you go. Take it.
Boom, boom, a little side hawk there. But yeah, so where were we?
Who knows, bro?
I don't know.
Superfly.
Superfly, yeah. So uncommon. So Chavo Classic, because Chavo Guerrero's dad was in WWF when Eddie and Chavo were doing their thing. Right. So, I can be an uncommon classic, but I do like Superflyers mount up like that. That took me back to regulators, mount up, and stuff like Superflyers mount up, or roll out like it can be Transformers too.
We're onto something.
Yeah, but no, so being able to make all these happen, man, is it's super. It's awesome, man. Because and I'm out here at the shows that are like big in the area. I at least in my opinion, I think they're big in the area. Especially this card is just everybody, whoever. I call it the who's who of Minnesota grappling.
Yeah.
And I'm in the mix. I've been able to bring my competitive nature or accolades or whatever you want to call them from back home, and because they're all in here, it wasn't like exterior. It wasn't like, hey, Rocky, you should hear. Rocky's doing what Rocky wanted to do, and this is how Rocky wants to get down out here. And I just want to get out there and just spread the love and celebrate jiu-jitsu and the way of competition. And we don't got to hate each other. We don't got to be gangsters about it. We don't got to bring all that shit out here to jiu-jitsu. Competitiveness, man. Gentlemanly competitiveness. You fuck each other up, but you're gonna be okay to go home. You know what I mean?
We all got to work. We all got to work in the morning. Yeah, that's what I say.
And I really enjoy the scene out here, man. It's a little different than it is back home. It's like a very respectful, like a respectful ass beating you might get, but nobody's trying to be thug about it. At least from what people that I've seen, you know what I mean? It gets a little weird in some areas, and back home it's kind of especially when you get politics and shit involved, and I don't like playing that stuff. Yeah. You know what I mean? But some people, they're hollering the gym name like it's a gang. And I was like, martial arts is supposed to take you away from that. You know what I mean? And
representing M theory. That's my set.
Right.
It sounds so dorky. Get out of here.
Yeah. Well, it's funny when I moved to Brain and I see these kids with their fucking hats like this and sag, and I'm like, you guys don't know shit about that fucking.
Stop doing that.
Not that I'm a big time G or anything like that, but I got I've kind of grew up around, the gang life, and I knew it wasn't for me.
Don't emulate it, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah, don't bring it. Don't try to be something you know nothing about. Just like all those people who front that might try to be they're big time MMA or big time jiu-jitsu or big time whatever, and they're not. There's some funk you don't want to fake, and you don't want to fake the funk about being this gangster and shit, because you're running to the wrong person that'll test you, and then you fall down because you got hit, and now you're paralyzed because you hit your head on the ground. And,
correct.
Don't
get in fights.
Yeah,
stop it.
Yeah, there's no reason for it. There's no reason for it, but
to the one point you made there was a hell of a match at the first Uncommon Classic, or maybe the second one, I don't know, between Augie and Tim Leung.
Oh, that was in November. That's where we met.
And
in November.
Then they had a rematch.
Oh, yeah. The rematch was in November.
And it's chippy. Both matches were chippy. They're both really good at this shit. They're both aggressive and young energy fellas. And they're friends that they see each other at open mats and train, as far as I know anyway. Yeah. So they keep the vibes good off of the mat. Let's try to kill each other, but then we'll have a beer.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how it was even when I fought MMA. Because I always wanted to be. Well, Stockton's kind of always had a rep from. I think we were the first city to file bankruptcy, and we had the whole housing boom explosion and all that shit. And so we had a lot. Almost one of the most violent cities at one point. The crime rate was so high. So I always wanted to be a good example out of there. And even to this point, I'm still 209. I'm still from Stockton, from California. I'm just representing out here now with Minnesota and the Midwest. But from there, I still want to be a good example of jiu-jitsu, of a black belt, of a family man, of a husband, a father, a son, all that stuff, But it leads back to there. But I never talk shit about people or try to I don't have to be mad to hit you, especially if we're doing MMA. That's just what we do. I don't like it. Yeah. But it goes back to the respectful ass whip.
Right,
you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just what we do. And jiu-jitsu, there's the ego involved for sure, competitiveness, but like everybody knows who's being a dick. And just because someone's being a dick, don't mean I got to be a dick back. Sometimes it's fun, but it's not, most times it's not necessary, to match fire with fire. I mean, 2 wrongs only make a right in math. Negative and negatives.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, that's true, yeah. We ain't going any farther with that shit.
So yeah, been able to make all these goals happen, dude. Like, I'm super happy to be where I'm at and to be doing what I'm doing. I told you before, I'm super pumped to be here because I know the reach you have here, and I see what you're doing, man. I see people, what they're doing, good or bad. You know what I mean? And it's just awesome to be in a different element of jiu-jitsu from what I'm used to, from being back home and coming here and just kind of immersing myself in the game, and and then
expanding the network,
and then I'm continuing to learn more about Professor Jared's reach and how he's been, in the Midwest. And
how do you like rolling with Jared?
I've never rolled with anybody like him. I refer to him as a waterfall. Because from the distance, like, oh, that waterfall, man, it's so nice. And you go up there, let me get in the waterfall, fucking cement.
You just violence.
Like, I try to do stuff, and I can't. It's just he just dictates everything, And I was just telling them the other day, I was like, man, I hope one day that somebody thinks of me the way that I think of you when I roll with you, and I can't do shit. Just the way he moves, and even Professor Aiden, his tendons are made of katana blades. He's like Shredder,
dude.
Like that, man. And I have a pretty high opinion of myself. I think I'm a tough guy. And I remember when I first went to visit over there, like, I was kind of like, I was feeling myself. I was a purple belt. I was fighting a lot. I was like, yeah, Professor Jared, wall. Started training over here regularly. Professor Aiden, I'm shooting, boom, boom, just fucking hip checked and everyone's style is so different. Like Professor Kyle is more like. Everybody's strong and tough. Guards a little bit more pressure. Mm-hmm. Professor Jared's just everything and anything he wants to do, he'll do it.
So those 3 guys are the Aiden and Kyle aren't replicas of Jared. There's just 3 unique styles there, you're saying? Because this is a small room physically and in numbers.
Yeah.
So like you would almost assume that a gym like that, like the guy at the top, the people underneath him are kind of reflections of his style.
Well, they are in a way. I think we're all a reflection of our teachers to a certain extent. But I mean, it's just Professor Jared's been doing it his whole life.
Yeah.
I mean, he went to high school with my wife. You know what I'm saying? That's my connection to Brainerd is my wife. But so he's been doing it a whole lot longer than me.
Yeah.
And then Kyle and Aiden are they're late 20s, early 30s, so like their testosterone level
just
is
a different thing. Yeah.
My shit's like.
I made a little video about rolling with Aiden a couple years ago, and I asked to drill some bolo stuff because he's just one of those upside down roly-poly kind of guys. And then we went and rolled and ended up doing a couple in a row, and at one point he hooked that twister hook as he was boloing my big ass and just tapped me out with just the hook. I was like, yeah, okay, yeah. So yeah, your his tendons being made of katana blades. That's perfect.
The arm bar position, and you get that tendon across your face, dude. It sucks a lot, but I will credit, but my roles. I'm getting my ass beat by these guys, and I might think I'm doing something, but it's probably a setup. If I can just make them change direction, cool. You
can elicit a response on their end.
If I can elicit some type of response, then that's cool. I'm progressing. But I had a match with Cody Pools out of Canada. Super tough guy, cool dude. And he got me in an armbar, and it was like, nope, you're not Professor Aiden. I'm getting out of this. And I got out of it. You know what I mean? And we had a good match. Cody and I, a couple good matches. That first year I was, playing with the feet is something new in competition. I've been able to hit a couple of leg locks and foot locks and stuff in competition. But man, when you're the receiver, it's like, oh fuck, because it's just like you want to be the guy who's doing it. You know, you don't want to be the guy who's getting it done to you, because then you got to like.
But like, by virtue of the position, you're both the guy potentially getting it and potentially doing it, though. Like, you have to give up your leg a little bit in order to get the leg.
You have to have a somewhat intricate knowledge of your foot placement when you're attacking somebody, and that's how I learned. And you learn trial by fire is what jiu-jitsu is. And so, like, you know, leaving my foot out there, going after someone else's, getting too excited, and, you know, having to slow down and this and that. But yeah, and then I've been heel hooked and I've been knee barred in competition and, you know, stuff like that. But, you know, just being able to, but, you know, and I tell some of the lower belts, is like, they're trying something and it didn't work. I go, but you thought about it and you tried it. That's the important thing, is to try. Because if you're not doing, you might do this, who cares what I might do? There's a counter to a counter. But if you don't do it out of fear, you're not going to progress.
Yeah.
You know?
I still remembering to remember things. You know what I mean? Like, you get in a position, you're like, oh, there's a thing here. And then they run around you. You're like, yeah, but I thought of it. I thought of jiu-jitsu when I was in a position to do it. Like, that's the win, man. Early on. That's where
the light bulb, that's the total win, man. You know?
To the point about the leg lock thing, that's why I like north-south.
Well, they can't touch your feet.
I'm going for attacks and I feel relatively safe. Yeah. Whereas, like, that foot lock game, that's actual chess. Like, you guys are thinking about a lot. I just want to get my big fat ass up high on your chest and get a paper cutter or something.
Yeah, you know the pressure stuff, the big man stuff, right?
I feel like we kind of did all of this, actually. It just seems like your style. But I usually wrap these up by saying, hey, you're a black belt. Teach me something. And a lot of times I'll phrase it like by belt. So if I'm a white belt, what do I need to know? If I'm a blue belt, what would you tell me? If I'm a purple belt, et cetera, et cetera. And like I said, a lot of great little teaching moments, a lot of lessons along the way in this convo so far. But if you want to phrase it all that way, or however you want to package it, go for it. But learn me something.
Well, you know, I've watched, I've gotten caught up on a lot of your podcasts once I finally decided, like, okay, let me see what's going on here. And you're talking to black belts. And I've seen this question come up. I'm like, how would I answer that without paraphrasing an article I read?
Yeah, sounded cliche.
Right, because I mean, you know, I'm really interested in people's journeys and like who belted them, who they get their black from, and it's not any kind of credit check or anything like that or something like that, McDojo kind of thing. It's just I'm just curious, man, because everyone, you know, we all have our journeys, and the deeper I get into it, and the looking at it from a different lens, you know, that stuff interests me, you know, people's journeys. But like white belt, you know, you're learning your body, because we're used to our body moving a certain way. And even when we lift weights, like we're here, we're just normal, the way we walk, you know. But then like, you have to, you know, learning about pummeling in and how, you know, even though it feels awkward, but if you have your body correctly, you know, it works. Yeah. You know, so you're learning, you're rewiring your brain at white belt, you know. So, you know, and all of it is like, just keep showing up. That goes across the board. Yeah, that's answer 0. Yeah, right. You got to show up. Yeah, so, you know, just keep showing up and don't get discouraged. Keep showing up is going to be in every belt rank, because you're going to go through different things at every rank. But like white belt, you're just relearning your body. You know, don't be so hard on yourself. Blue belt, you know, you're kind of starting to play with stuff. You know, blue belt is like, you know, where you kind of try to have a controlled spazziness. You're you're a little bit more controlled, and your ego comes out in blue belt, because you know, you're having some success, you know, so maybe it's to like tone the ego down a little bit, you know, at blue belt. You're saying expect to feel like you have some efficacy and you know some stuff. Yeah, you know, so some stuff. Expect the bad part of you to come out a little bit. Right. Yeah, because the bad part's going to come out because the thing we talk about a lot at the gym is like get back. If you like turn up on somebody, be ready for the get back, because they're going to turn up on you, because like, hey, let's just flow. All right, cool. But as soon as you fucking do some shit, all right, let me remind this person who they're rolling with. Yeah. You know, but you know, I'm all for an intense roll. Like, you know, I'm down with forms in the face and all that kind of like stuff, elbows and thighs. But yeah, I think blue belt, is your ego's going to come out, and you're gonna have some hard conversations with some people and be like, hey, bro, you're being a fucking dick. Like, I need you to slow down. Or like, it might be an older guy, it might be a hobbyist guy, because, and these are all, more or less younger people that, and they're even in their 30s, the blue belt, they're like, or some, like I have a teammate, like he's really laser focused on one thing, and then like the third thing he didn't even think about is what he got caught with. Because you can be too laser focused, so but so where you're learning your body at white belt, like stuff at blue belt, but then you kind of have to like rein that in and learn how to manage that,
because you don't know shit,
right? And still not get discouraged and still keep showing up. The roles come a little bit harder. Your ego gets crushed a little bit more. Purple belt, like, what's that purple belt, man? Like, it sounds cliche, but it's true. It's like you're developing your game. You understand.
I think that's 100% true. That's where it happens.
You know how to deal with adversity. You know how to deal with the spaz. You know how to deal with the hard blue belt who thinks he's the shit. Like, and you have some tricks up your sleeve, and you're having some success. With the browns and the blacks. But at purple, you're more like purple belt. You're never gonna. The only reason you stop doing jiu-jitsu is if something catastrophic happens in your life. Is that purple belt? If you made it that far, you're gonna be a black belt.
Seems like it, yeah.
But like at purple belt, like you're gonna be looked at as a leader. You have, like, as much as we may not want to be leaders or examples, and I think by nature we're good or bad, but on the mats, like, people are going to ask you questions. You're going to have to be setting the tone for those guys that line up on the other side of you. So definitely not going barefoot in the bathroom is fucking very, very crucial. And I bring that up because I'm a stickler for that. We all fucking knows what happens when dudes are going pee. They might miss. Kids going pee. I was having a funny conversation with one of the younger students the other day, and I was like, hey, next time you go into a public bathroom, look at the floor, and then you tell me about it. But anyway, so
but points we shouldn't have to make, but thank you for saying it. Oh my gosh,
dude. Yeah. I tell you, man, it's like, but for the white belts, they don't know. Well, with anything, you don't know what you don't know until you know what you don't know. They're like, oh, jiu-jitsu, they're baseball. They don't even think about feet going in the face. They don't, they don't think about that stuff. Blue belt, you should know at this point. Purple, you should know. Yeah. Brown, what's wrong with you? Black, bro, give me a break.
Yeah.
But yeah, purple, you're going to be a leader. And you're gonna, and again, jiu-jitsu is not just about the submissions and all this cool stuff. It's also about your character and your life changing. Because we can't be the same. I can't be the same guy I was 10 years ago. I wouldn't be ready for Minnesota. I wouldn't have been ready for that move. I wouldn't be ready for a lot of things I've had to deal with, personally and professionally, or on the mats. So purple belt comes with leadership. Because by some people's laws, like, that's when you can actually teach a class. But purple belt, a lot, you know a lot, but be prepared to be a leader, because brown and black, that's what they are. Brown belt, you're gonna have I think brown belt kind of might set you up to get some more humility when you get to black, because it's like you might get caught by a blue belt. You'll have tough rounds with the purple belt, and so like your humility has to kind of start getting in check, and you have to refine some things. You start to refine, and that, because that black belt's going to come whether you want it or not, or you think you're ready or not. It's going to come. I didn't think I was going to get mine when I did. I thought I was going to be at the end of the year last year, but
Well, the point you're making is you're almost there. Right. If black belt is there, but you still ain't there. So that kid over there is going to have your number sometimes, and that guy is going to make you earn it. And if you're not ready for that gut check, maybe that's another round of the ego check thing. That's where it can come out again. Yeah.
And then, black belt, it's like you have to really, it's like putting your ego in check from a different lens. It's like, because on the one hand, it's like, I'm a black belt now. I know I'm not, I'm not supposed to know everything, but I should know some stuff. You know, am I showing this person the right way? You kind of, that's more of a reflective look, like, you know, just how you are as a jiu-jitsu person in the community. You know, it's like, there's a competitive side, there's the character side, there's how you are on the mat. Like, you know, maybe some of the shit I joked around with at brown belt, I really can't do at black belt now. Maybe there, you know, my ego, it's like, you know, I'm not supposed to lose to whoever's below me. And it's not really the case, you know, because there's so much shit that happen in jiu-jitsu, and people learn at different rates. And then again, if they're younger and more spunkier and they hitting some shit, like it is what it is. Yeah. So like, there's that kind of a gut check. And
it's also a good thing as the black belt that's happening, because you're one of the teachers, you're one of the leaders. They should be kicking some ass, those lower belt people and whatever.
Yeah. So there's, you know, it's just a lot of different things that you have to control your mind with. It's more exercise with your mind to not get caught up in what you think other people might be thinking. It's all made up shit, you know, like, oh, I'm supposed to be this, I shouldn't lose here, or, you know, had a poor performance there, or, you know, just all this different stuff, you know, and, you know, because everyone has their expectations of a black belt. But my duty as a black belt is not to meet anybody's expectations. You know, they gotta, you know, but my expectations I have to have a standard within my own self, because no matter what, I'm going to be a black belt for the rest of my life, whether I continue jiu-jitsu or not, you know, and I have a choice. I have to make a choice of what kind I'm going to be. Am I going to be these, you know, shitty black belts and that just don't have no character? Or am I going to be a black belt that's worthy of, you know, of the respect, that's worthy of what my professors saw in me to award it? Because I think a black belt under Professor Jarrett, as I've continued to learn, is they don't just give them out. You know, that school's tough as shit, and you know, and who am I to question him on? Oh, why'd you give it to me, or what did you see? It's like, it doesn't matter what they saw. They saw what they saw. I just have to figure out what I want to do with it. And so it's just, I guess, black belt's just a lot of introspection.
Mm-hmm. That actually matches up with, I don't know if you remember on the John Grills episode, but he actually said that he considers the belt promotion a invite to become that belt. And when you get the next one, you've become that belt. So when I got a purple belt, it was an invite to become a purple belt, and I know I've become a purple belt when I've gotten a brown.
That makes sense.
And it feeds into what you're saying, like, okay, now I have to fulfill the role and decide what this means and decide how I represent it.
Yeah, and like I just always want to be a good representation. I'm never going to be perfect, but man, I can get close to excellence. You know,
just a little taste every now and then feels real good.
Yeah. But you know, then there's just a whole other aspect to, you know, just the coaching side, and, you know, and walking people through, you know, their matches, you know, and I come with a lot of experience, you know, and I know that, but it's like, oh shit, now I'm a black belt. Now I have to, and it could just be something I'm putting on myself, where it's like, oh, I have to, my performance as instructing somebody for something is now going to be looked at. But again, at the end of the day, you know, who cares what people think? Because I know that I'm coming from a place of good. I'm coming from a place of love and positivity. So I'm not, you know, leading somebody down the path the wrong way because of some malicious, selfish intent. It's just, sometimes shit just happens, but not getting too caught up in what I think others' expectations are going to be at black belt across the board, you know.
What was your favorite phase of jiu-jitsu? Could be a belt, could just be where you lived, what gym you were at, what specific thing, you know.
I think purple belt was cool. I competed a lot, you know. I competed a lot at purple belt, and I, you know, being here, you know, in this new area and all the competing that I've done so far, and just how I've just jumped 2 feet into to the grappling community, you know. Meeting the people that I've met, people like you and, you know, and Morgan and Professor Ishmael, and, you know, run into Professor Greg Nelson every now and then. And I've watched MMA for a long time, so I've seen what Minnesota's done, not Sean Shirks and all that shit. Dude, man, like, you know, Minnesota is, you know, it's tough people out here, man.
I was just saying that this morning, actually. If you look at the early mid and early UFC and high level MMA days, we got a decent pedigree considering it's Minnesota. It's not a coastal major metro area or whatever, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and, you know, a lot, you know, that's just kind of a testament, I think, to Greg Nelson. I call him the godfather of Midwest MMA. You know, I told him that to his face when I met him.
Seems reasonable.
You know, and it was cool because like if anybody doesn't know who he is, like you got to go gut check yourself in your jiu-jitsu history. But like that dude's been around for a long time, and because I've been around for a long time, but he was around for a long time when I was just starting. So like, you know, seeing what, you know, he had, you know, what he had done, and then being able to actually meet him, and then him say, "Oh, you're at Black Arrow," like, yeah, like not verbatim, but like that, you know, that's what's up.
Yeah,
like,
good spot. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, to hear it from him again, I know who he is, man. And it's just like, man, I'm in the right spot, you know, and that's no diss on any other gym at all. But for me, I'm in the right spot, man. And, you know, one other thing that on my goal list that I forgot to mention is competing back home.
Nice.
I get to compete back home. In August, I signed up for Arte Suave is a similar 1v1 type of setup that, you know, that kind of, I think, fight to win kind of fathered in. But I like to do a level of showmanship. You know, you see some of the pictures I take with, you know, for the promo shots and shit like that. Yeah. But I got this one all laid out, man, because I left Stockton as a brown belt. I'm coming back as a black belt. So Back in Black's going to be my walkout music. Nice. And yeah, dude, it's going to be, and the Civic Auditorium is, it is historic in Stockton. I fought there. I did an MMA fight there before, so you know I've been able to be part of that history, and then coming back, you know, doing jiu-jitsu in another sport that I love. You know, it's going to be dope, man. It's going to be cool to go back home and compete, and you know, show my people out there the progression I've made, you know, since leaving. You know, and I'll be 47. I'll be almost 50 years old doing this, man. You know, shout out to Professor Kelly, that motherfucker. You know, I want to be him when I grow up, dude. Like, he's just, you know, he's still out there doing it, man. And like, I've gotten to know him, man, really, really good. And like, it's just, he's got a good soul, man. If I can, you know, be something like that when I, you know, in 10 years.
Is he 60 now, Kelly?
I think so.
59, 60.
Something like
he
that.
was at Ish's comp training this morning, and he'll be at the next high calorie open mat.
Yeah.
And then he'll be at the competition the week after that. Like, what the fuck, bro?
Hey, man, you know, if you got the drive and, you know, and you want to do it, it can be done, man. Like, I think sometimes we put too much on age. I'm too old. Don't
embrace the age.
There's some things you're too old for, like doing dumb shit and fighting and shooting each other and shit like that. Sure. But I mean, I started MMA at 28. Like, that's late.
Yeah, that is late.
You know, that's late considering, you know.
Especially with family circumstance. Like, it compounds it all,
Yeah, but yeah.
Kelly's the six-pack fueled by beer. Like, bro is 60 with a six-pack, and he's drinking beer for breakfast.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
I got a party ball. I'm trying to just keep... I got one pack. So like, it's funny because some people that, you know, oh man, I mean, you look good, you've been working out. And I'm like, wait till I turn the corner, bro. And you see and I'm trying, like, I don't know, man. I for a while I was like, oh, I'm gonna try to get rid of it, but then it's like, once, you know, I'm just 170, 175. I'll be fine. I lift weights. You know, I do my shit. I think I'm in fairly decent shape for my age and what I'm doing.
You leave room for enjoyment in this life.
Yeah. Because I died and I can't train like I did when I was in MMA. I just don't have the capacity in my life anymore. You know, I was training fucking 4 or 5 hours a day every day. You know,
and good. It means you have more going on in your life. You've got family stuff. You've got a career you like. You've got other priorities. Cool.
Yeah. It's cool. I can dig it. And it's just, you know, coming to terms with my age, coming to terms with my belt rank, coming to terms with just like different things in my life where it's like, I got to have an honest talk with myself and figure out, you know, what the next move is, because as much as my mind wants me to push like I'm 32,
the knees won't like it.
My body's like, nah, bro. Let's just hang out and have some menudo or something. Yeah. So.
Closing thoughts, man. You know, again, you know, thank you for what you're doing out here for the community, man. You know, there's a few people back home that, you know, photographers and shit, and that's cool. But like, you're everywhere. These, you know, you're all over
You know,
they got more stuff to be at though.
I don't know.
There's not as many events out here.
Hey, take the W, bro.
I don't know. I'm taking it, but in fairness, you know.
Well, I mean, just in Northern California, you know what I mean? Like there may be more to go, but I mean, but what you're doing has substance. It's not watered down. It's not favoritism. You know, I really appreciate that, you know, about you. And just, everybody I've met out here, man, everybody's been super cool, you know, and you know, very inviting, and, you know, it's clean competition in terms of like nobody trying to get gangster with you or causing fights and shit like that at a weigh-in or a show or anything. But you know, shout out to my sponsors. I brought sponsor stuff with me from MMA, so like I still try to run that angle, and you know that Pallet Resource Company sponsored me for my trip back home. OC Services back home, my good buddy Oscar Martinez, you know, hooking it up. Cholo MMA, funny guys. If you haven't watched their shit, dude, they're hella funny.
Way funny.
Yeah. I did a skit with them sometime back before I left. You can find it. I'll send it to you. Check it out.
Yeah. I'll share it.
But yeah, you know, I just think jiu-jitsu is a great thing. I think that we have we have a responsibility. Once we get past the 2 stripes on the blue belt, you start having a responsibility to start changing your life, being an example, because the upper ranks that you looked up to when you're a white belt, once you get a blue belt, you're now that guy pretty much. You know what I'm saying? But like, you know, it's just, you know, I'm just blessed and thankful for the life that I have and where it's taken me so far, the shit that I've gone through some shit, and, you know, but it's made me who I am. You can't let the losses define you in any way, whether it's, you know, personal or, you know, on the mats or in competition. Like, you know, I've lost more than I won on competition and in life, but like those losses don't define me. You know, it's just how I get up and I keep going. Even the wins don't define me. You know, it's just that I'm here, that I'm still going, that I'm still pushing I think is more of a testament than anything, you know, and I'm just blessed to be here. Again, I got my seat at the table here on the Porrada Podcast, brother, and I'm fucking stoked. Like for me, it's a big thing, man. Thank you very much.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you, brother. Yeah, man. You the man.
All right.
Cheers.